the likely faster development time of Silent Hill 1 Remake, I'd still imagine we're likely to get a pretty substantial game here, just like we did with Silent Hill 2 Remake. And finally, just wanted to state that for as excited as we all are for Silent Hill 1 Remake, let's give Bloober and Konami all the time they need to create an incredible game like they did with their previous remake. Crunching is not something that I encourage, nor that I want to see, so while 2027 may seem ambitious, yet entirely possible, at the end of the day, let's give these teams the time to craft a game that everyone will be thrilled to see when they reveal more of the title, and eventually release it to the world. With Silent Hill 1 Remake announced now, it is an inevitability that we will see a remake of especially Silent Hill 3 to come after, as Silent Hill 3 is a direct sequel to Silent Hill 1. What comes after remakes of Silent Hills 1 and 3, well, who really knows? But seeing as Silent Hill 4 The Room has arguably the most room, pun partially intended, to grow with a proper remake, that game was still relatively popular and has a cult following to this day. I really do hope to see this game remade eventually once both Silent Hill 1 and 3 are remade. And yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg really, as who's to say games like Silent Hill Origins and Silent Hill Shattered Memories would be off the table in future remakes. It's clear that Konami wants Silent Hill to have a larger presence now, and with Bloober Team behind the next remake after achieving near universal praise for their work on Silent Hill 2 Remake, it's safe to say that the Silent Hill content going forward is likely to be stacked. Let me know what you think about this news surrounding the Silent Hill 1 remake in the comments, and if you'd be interested in seeing more remakes in the series going forward, as it very much appears like this is certainly the case. This is all on top of what we are getting this year with Silent Hill F, representing a huge departure from the setting of the games that have come before it, as for the first time ever, the series is turning away from the foggy New England town that has defined the series for over 20 years and is planting its roots in a rural town in 1960s Japan, with series producer Motoi Okamoto aiming to restore the lost Japanese horror that the series lacked since the PS2 era. This dark and brutal Silent Hill game aims to stand tall amidst the remakes that are surrounding it. That is absolutely worthy of your attention, so be sure to check out my giveaway of this game and my upcoming coverage of it, as Silent Hill F could likely be this year's best horror title. That's all I have for you in this video, my friends. Come join me.
Ocean Week is here. The best rate of the season just landed, up to 30% off. VIP check-in, free airport transfers, and more. Book today at oceanhotels.com.
Known for its psychological horror, iconic and oppressive fog, twisted enemy and boss designs, and its deeply unnerving settings, Silent Hill has been scaring gamers across decades of titles, spanning numerous console generations, from its popular mainline entries to its lesser-known obscure spin-off titles. Above all, Silent Hill is perhaps best known as being one of the scariest game franchises of all time, with well-known abominations like the imposing Pyramid Head and the eponymous tap.
So there's a good chance that they might have a bit of a bombing now. This is the three military options Trump might consider. We'll see about this.
The president's potential options here. And as you see it, there are three main scenarios that could play out here. The first one is essentially that Israel decides to go it alone.
Correct. So if if the president decides to let the Israelis do it by themselves, if he's comfortable, he thinks they have the capabilities to do enough damage that he's comfortable with the after effects of it, this is what it would look like. So in terms of Fordo, you really have two options. The Israelis previously launched a raid into Syria about 200 kilometers north into a chemical weapons facility. So they put commandos on the ground before. That's an extreme option with a lot of risk, obviously putting people on. But as you can see, the tunnel entrance is here. So we got them here, right, here, and here, right? So if you're going to send folks inside into the mountain into a deep buried facility as a render safe mission, kind of difficult.
Yeah,
but
I mean, how defended is this area, though? I mean, are there Iranians on the ground?
Sure.
What else is there?
So, I mean, there's plenty of defenses that are here. This was
Makes me want to play
specifically
Age of Empires. Yeah.
built as a deep buried facility to withstand conventional attacks, either from a ground or an air raid.
Yeah.
So, and you also have what we call fatal funnels or choke points, because if there's any guns inside, those are the only entrance points, and that's where they're pointing. So it's a very difficult mission set for anybody performing it.
Yeah.
No.
So the second option is that the United States does a limited attack, and it sounds like from our reporting that that is what the United States is trying to figure out. What is the limited option here?
Right, so if it's limited options, so if it works on the ground raid and the Israelis, those same tunnels, if they don't bomb them and collapse the tunnels and the air shafts so they can't get inside, requiring constant suppression, then it becomes the U.S. option, right? There's really only one aircraft that's capable of carrying the
This is it,
30,000
yeah.
pound bunker busting bombs required to do the mission, and it's the B-2 stealth bombers.
So yeah, we already know about this one.
Round trip to the United States with refueling, provided that none are fully deployed. Probably multiple sorties involved, but that's realistically
think
what we're
that
looking
makes it
at.
up in
Doing
war
enough damage
crimes?
to support the program back.
Yeah, and the B-2
It's lively.
is a
I feel like they're guessing, right? And like, there's only so many things that the U.S. can really do. So, I mean, unless they have like some super secret weapon that we have no idea about, but I feel like if they did, they probably wouldn't use that in this situation. So, like, you can pretty much assume what the different outcomes are going to be. Right? I mean, that's what I would
They
say.
don't have them, and that's why it requires the U.S. and they can't deliver as big of a blow from the air.
Yeah, so let's go through option 3. This is essentially looking at the region and saying not just this one facility, but let's take it all out. Like, what are we talking about in terms of that?
Sure, I think this is the least likely option to start with. The president makes a decision, hey, Bordeaux, his political base doesn't support, a war. He certainly doesn't want to collapse the government there and deal with nation and state building, which is what we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan. But if we did go in and decide to strike, right, what do the targets look like outside of that? You can see the nuclear facilities here with the nuclear symbols, and then you've got regime targets, and then you've got oil refineries along there, which is really far expanded at that point. It's more likely that would be, but that would realistically probably only happen if they decide to go after U.S. forces in the region. So we have.
Yeah, I feel like even if that happens, there's going to be a lot of people that still won't want to get involved in the war. Like even if U.S. forces got attacked or something like that, I still just don't really. I just don't really see that happening.
Electrified. Iron. 100 tire.
Selling one layer of light can be
When you think horror in video games, it's probably safe to assume that you don't immediately think about the Game Boy. That is, unless you also have memories of stealing batteries and everything in your house, then getting punished for it afterwards. Sorry, Mom. Regardless, when it comes to a visceral, depressing, and just genuinely scary experience, I don't think you assume that I would be saying that one of the most unsettling games I played in years is also on the same device that I played Pokemon Yellow with. But here we are. This is Dedius. Okay, so this may be a surprise to some of you, but the Game Boy is still getting new games. While these are entirely independent and can still run on pretty much everything else, the simple fact that I was able to play this game during the PS5 generation on a handheld I used to play with back in the 90s is kind of crazy. For this review, I mostly played the game on a modded Game Boy Pocket with a flash cart, and then again on my PC. While it was fun on a nice color calibrated 4K monitor, there's something about playing a Game Boy game on its original hardware. Dedius is a game from an indie dev called Isma, who, by the way, is pretty sick with a pencil. I'm always jealous of people that can draw. Anyways, the game is made for the Game Boy and runs extremely well on a Game Boy Pocket. So if you have the means, go for it. But I have to suggest, if you're gonna play on an old Game Boy, get a warm light or backlight the screen or something. Because honestly, I don't know how anybody played games on this thing back in the day, because yeah, I've never seen a darker screen than this. Dedius takes place over 3 days, in which you're tasked with figuring out the mystery behind your nightmares and why everyone in town is acting so strange. It's bloody, unsettling, and deals with some pretty extreme issues, so a warning on that kind of stuff. This game is definitely a hard on. You play as a kid who's not quite a teenager, who only has 3 days to explore his small village and ultimately try to stop the cosmic horror that is Dedius. The decision to make the main character a kid really solidifies the horror and general feeling of helplessness here. You'll talk to your friends who are having the same shared nightmares, as well as being talked down to by adults and just generally creepy strangers. You can explore a church, library, take in the scenery, and even go to school. As each day creeps forward to the end of time, everyone starts acting stranger, and casual situations like visiting a coffee shop and the beach take a much darker direction. While I'm trying to not spoil too much here, the game is much bigger than it seems. Throughout your adventure, you'll run into a possible 11 endings with no direct pathways on how to get to them. While there's a few that take a little bit of logic to achieve, this is where Dedius sets itself apart from almost anything on the Game Boy. I mean, some of these endings took quite a bit of logic to achieve. The inclusion of branching pathways, player choice, and an if this then that gameplay loop introduces some of the most interesting modern gameplay innovations to old hardware that I've seen in quite some time. By letting me choose what I wanted to do and how to do it, the small world of Dedius became infinitely bigger, and I was able to lose myself in its short runtime. While the environments and the world in the game are small, throughout my time playing, my mind was filling the gaps and making this seem much bigger than it is. Which, when combined with the game's bleak soundtrack and overall melancholy themes, it made it pretty scary. I actually found myself thinking about the story long after the batteries died in my Game Boy, to the point to where I was even having some strange nightmares. If there's one thing I've stated time and time again on this channel, it's that games are an escape. By giving us the chance to not only see new stories, but also experience them, they let us use our imagination in ways that we may not have before. And when it comes to horror, this is essential in selling me on why the thing happening on my screen should be seen as a scary thing, and in the moment perceived as a threat, even though it's not real. I get more into the psychology of fear in games in this video right here, so if you want to check that out, that'd be cool. Dedius is one of those once-in-a-while gaming experiences that I really can't recommend enough. And if you have access to a Game Boy that, won't make you go blind, or you're just looking for something interesting and replay for a few hours, you should totally not sleep on this. With its simple visuals, clever writing, and what might be one of the best looking games that can run on the original Game Boy's hardware, Dedius, in its own way, raises the bar on what true horror experiences can and should be. Hey everybody, I know it's been a while, so yeah, thanks for sticking with me and checking that one out. This was a game that
With smart security and energy management, Vivint makes your home smarter, all in one place.
Okay, so we're at the film festival, middle of Park City. The doors open, and there, Sapphire Reserve premiere party. These trips are the best. At Art Week, we had our own private viewing. At Race Week, the lounge was right next to the pit.
It's hard to make anything scary on a 2-inch screen, but you can make them pretty darn entertaining. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games. And today, I'm gonna show you spooky Game Boy Advance games. Ooh, spooky.
Second Opinion Games.
Let's get all the obvious games out of the way that everyone else would always bring up, like Castlevania. Of course, that's a spooky Halloween-themed game with vampires and all, and zombies to take down, and all of them are pretty good. One of them was just an NES remake. Circle of the Moon was probably my least favorite of the other three Metroidvania games. Aria of Sorrow is really good. Harmony of Dissonance is great. Castlevania is a no-brainer for anyone who wants a very good time. Also on the Game Boy Advance, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. This is actually my favorite version of Ghouls and Ghosts. I did a full review of it because it's not just a remake of the Super Nintendo game. No, they actually have original levels in here and the ability to save your progress, which you're going to need to do, because if you want to take those branching paths, you have to finish with at least the green or gold suit armor. So you have to get good and get good fast, or just get used to resetting your Game Boy Advance and then reloading your save state until you can play through every level without getting hit. Pinball of the Dead is another game that people bring up. You have 3 different tables to play on here, and each one has their own set of rules and objectives to complete, even boss battles thrown in here. This is a darn cool game. It's shame that it's stuck on such a tiny screen because I think the DS could have done this just a heck of a lot better. Casper is a game where you play as a ghost, and there's a spooky atmosphere house here with some other ghosts involved. But essentially, this is just a boy and his blob, only you play as the blob, and you can switch back and forth between what actions you want Casper to take. Sometimes he's a plank that lets people walk all over him, as if Casper doesn't do that enough already. And other times you can turn into a fan that does things for reasons, or a really scary ghost who does things really fast.